Hi guys, the review today is on the Earthshaker Centurion. This was gifted to me just before Christmas by my friend Cannibal, so if you're watching this, I do appreciate it, Cannibal. I'm enjoying the tank, thank you mate. Onto the tank itself. It's a Swedish tank, it's a premium medium, sits at tier 8 and it has full matchmaking, which means you are going to see tier 10s in this thing. It has a 75% XP bonus and a 50% silver bonus, meaning it's a black tank and all but name and paint scheme. Tank's got two main flaws and a pretty huge upside. Other than that, it's what you expect from a Centurion. You know, you've got paper hull, it's quite big, you've got a decent turret, your view range is okay, top speed's pretty good. One of the downsides is that the engine on this tank when you're driving around feels broken. Feels like it's taken a shot to the engine before you've even loaded in. Which is a bit weird, as mobility wise it's got near enough the same stats as the Primo Victoria and the STRV 81. Yet they both feel a fair bit faster, well more agile than this tank. The top speeds are the same, this one just takes a while getting there. Unfortunately, Wargaming from what I hear aren't going to fix that and believe it's working as intended. That old infamous saying when it comes to Wargaming and the product. I don't fully agree with them, as the stats suggest otherwise, but it is what it is, you know. The other downside is that while this has got a different gun from the other Centurions at the tier, it's still a Centurion gun, meaning it's made out of spaghetti. If you don't aim this thing in all the way, your shells are not going to hit. If you like tanks that can snapshot, do not buy this. You are not snapshotting things with this gun, not unless you're incredibly fluky anyway. Now, onto the upsides. Obviously it's a Centurion, so I've just gone to the main upside, as everyone should know the ups and downs of Centurions by now. This has got the L7 105mm NATO gun. That means that you've got 390 alpha damage. Your standard penetration is nerfed down a bit from the gun that the Centurion 7.1 has, and the Charioteer. And your standard penetration on this instead sits at just above 230mm, which, whilst it's not as high as the other two tanks that get this gun, it's still more penetration than the other premium Centurions get on their standard shells, I believe. And you're hitting for a fair chunk more damage. Obviously you do have a longer reload, I think mine's probably around 10 seconds. I do have vents, brothers in arms, food and whatnot. So you do have a longer reload, but you're doing more alpha. The main upside of the tank though is the HESH shells. As you might have just seen, that Challenger just lost a lot of his health. That is because the HESH shell on this tank has 210mm of penetration, same as it does on the 7.1. And it does a lot of damage. A lot of the time you're going to hit for close to or over 500. And 210mm is plenty of penetration on a HESH shell. Put it this way, if you're top tier, you can pretty much load up the HESH and just smack everything you come across with it. You do have to be careful where you're aiming, you know, you can't hit tracks, very thick armour, spaced armour, because then you're only going to do splash damage and do, you know, 100 and odd. But if you know where to aim with the stuff, flat panels of armour for instance, on any tank with weak armour, you're going to hit them very, very hard. Even if you're loading in your bottom tier, you can still make good use of the HESH depending on the map and how often you can move around and flank. The key to using this tank is knowing which shell to use against which target and when you should be switching shells. That's how you're going to maximise the potential from it. You can, if you want, drive around firing AP all the time. It'll work for you, you know, you're still going to do a decent amount of damage, you've got plenty of penetration. But if you're doing that, I'd say you aren't maximising the potential of this tank at all, because I spend at least half my time firing HESH and laughing whilst I'm doing it, because some of the damage figures you can get are just ridiculous. I mean, over tier 8s have been two-shotting. It's not heavy tanks, but you know, things like TDs, other medium tanks, 2 and 3 shot in them, and they just don't stand a chance. They can't out-trade it. See the aiming time there, that does take quite a while though, and you do have to let that aim in all the way. So it's a tank you do have to be patient with, and it's one you've got to be very careful with your map placement as well. Like I say, you can't go brawling, but at the same time, the closer you are, the more likely you are to actually hit your shots. I find So it does take a little bit of getting used to in that regard, I suppose. You don't want to be too aggressive, but you know, sitting at the back sniping is not something I'd probably do. The gun handling stats, for the most part, aren't terrible, but it's nowhere near as accurate as the other Centurions are. You are gonna, sorry, excuse me. You are gonna have games where the gun is gonna troll you. Something I say in a fair few of my videos, but it's something that happens with a fair amount of tanks. There's going to be certain games where this gun's just going to miss and you're going to get really annoyed with it, and then there's going to be other games where, like this one for instance, where you know it's going to hit a fair amount of times and you're going to do plenty of damage. Overall though, I do think it's pretty good. The gun on this performs better for me than the gun on that awful Halloween tank. The tank itself isn't awful, but the visual design is. What was it called now? Can't remember its bloody name. Was it the Inferno? Yeah, I think so. The one with the giant horns on the head. It looks really daft. This gun performs slightly better than that one, but it can troll you the same. Now here, the T-50-2 is fully surrounded. He's not getting out of there, or she isn't getting out of there alive. So I'm going to turn around and go to the other side of this hill. However, this tank takes a while to get moving, as we're going to see. It's not very fast. I've been outrun by heavy tanks on quite a lot of occasions. Like I say, if you get up to its top speed, it's not so bad, but the acceleration on it is pretty terrible. It can be a flaw. It means if you overextend, odds on you not making it out of there alive. This tank is not good at bailing from a bad situation. So you do have to be really careful and bear this slow acceleration in mind. Now there I tried firing before I'd fully aimed in, and naturally it missed. Here I went for the kill with an auto aim shot, but I think my controller's bugged because it didn't work, and that's why I overshoot where I was going. I get my act together eventually and aim manually. There wasn't much that TD could do there, but it did land a shot in me that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't being lazy. So always remember, you know, manual aim's always better than auto aim. Here I'm on low health. I can't be the scout. This tank isn't fast enough to go play scouting duty. This is a support fire medium, more than one that can, you know, run off and light up targets. So here I'm just having to rely on the team to light up targets and hope I can just sneakily put some HESH shells into them and farm a bit more damage. At this point I'm having a pretty good game anyway, in fairness. 10 penetrations. I mean, I'm sat away from the screen, it might be more than 10, I'm not sure. But that's not a bad amount in most medium tanks, but when a lot of your shots have been doing 500 damage, it's a hefty amount. Here I'm pretty safe, so I'm just letting the gun aim in all the way, and again, smacking tanks for far more than I should be doing. If you see one of these tanks on the field, I'd say take it out as soon as you can. Now here, I'm thinking one more kill, and I've got a top gun. I'll go over this rock, and crap. Boom. Yeah, I killed myself. I am not a good driver, apparently. I was first person in the game at that moment as well. And I did not see the drop. And it turns out, this tank is good in many ways, but it can't bounce. So yeah, avoid driving over large boulders, because, you know, you could be having a good game, you could be close to getting the top gun, and then you might do like I do and just decide, nah, I'm just going to ruin it for myself. I like to tell myself I'm a good player, and then I watch these video replays and realise, yeah, I might be a bit of a stupid player too. Now, we'll go back to the garage, and I'll just show you its stats like I normally would do. It's been a bit slow today, so I don't know what's going on with the loading times. Come on, game. Oh, another thing I should mention, the camo on the tank seem a bit odd. A lot of them look very mismatched. And the turret always seems to be darker than the hull. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, the camos are kind of weird. Right, now, there you go. There's the stats on it. Like I said, the accuracy and the aiming time on that, they're not so bad, but you really do have to let it aim in all the way, otherwise it's just not going to cooperate with you. It's a good tank. I'd say it is worth buying, providing you bear the mobility in mind. The Primo Victoria there's got worse mobility, apparently, but that is the faster tank. Obviously this one's got the crew and the equipment, but even so, the Primo's still the faster tank. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Cheers. I do appreciate it, as always.